that are resulting in this issue that you're experiencing persisting. It's like, one, physically, you're not actually getting the help that is physically helping you change, realign, heal, and recover. Number two, your entire mental state around this experience is that of you're now at the point where it's no longer helping you. Mentally, you don't even want to be there. So physically, you're not going to respond well to it. And there's not necessarily as much communication as on the whys. I feel like if you can communicate a why, regardless of whether or not they would agree with it, if they understood the why behind what they're doing, they can at least buy into it on any level that will allow them to understand what it is that they're doing, so that they can actually put intentionality into it, put energy into it, and it gets something out of it, as opposed to it's more of like, hey, this is what we're doing today. Oh, we're changing this, or yeah.
Rehab sucks, and it's the human experience to not want to do boring stuff over and over again if they don't have the. It's almost like sales. You got to sell them the fucking perfect thing that they're going to get for doing all of the boring work afterwards, and like promise them that, and then you see a lot more buy-in. And we'll get into this in today's episode where we're talking about injuries, because it's something that's coming up frequently, and something that we've been talking about ourselves off camera a ton when it comes to things. But I wanted to touch on something that you said, and they have this whole team. They have a large team that seems to be disconnected when it comes to the coaches and kind of opinions and things like that. And I think having a team is good, but because like you and me, we don't see eye to eye on everything that we do, but it gives a check and balance, right? I'm not the dictator, so I can't just be like, okay, we're doing this, and this is why I think we're doing this, because there's so many different avenues you can take with fitness that work, and with recovery and all that kind of stuff. But then you can say to do a movement one way, and I can be like, I don't agree with that. And then we can find a middle ground, or the person that's right will come out on top, because we'll both go into it with an open mindset. And then we'll actually come out on top with what's best for that individual because of that. And then that creates research, that creates thinking, that creates problem solving around the problem that we're having. Where if everybody's just like, okay, do this, and they send them to the next person's like, I don't agree with that, let's do this instead. And then it just becomes a whole thing where now you're showing up every day, and it becomes kind of
confusing.
It's confusing and discouraging, because not only by not only sticking to one program, you're doing so many different things that you're actually probably moving backwards. And then you don't know what that dream outcome is at the end that you're supposed to be working towards. Right?
And you don't even know what's
I don't do things that suck. I don't do things that suck without being like, I don't do 10 minutes of lunges a day because I enjoy it. I do it because it's going to make me lose weight, and it's going to make me hit the golf ball farther. And if I didn't know that it was going to do those things, and if somebody was just like, do 5-10 minutes lunges a day, don't explain it to me, I'd be like, fuck you. It hurts so bad. Why would I do that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just like, it makes no sense to not have kind of like, okay, this is the goal. How are we going to get there? And here are the building blocks that we need to put in to get to that goal. And that's how everything should be explained, because the equation will always come back to the equation.
Yeah, it's so true. And I really love what you said too about like not only the checks and balances, but being able to articulate that and have open conversations around why. Like, as a coach and an athlete, I love when my athletes ask me questions. I love when they challenge my point of view, because it tells me two things. One, they're invested. If they didn't actually care and they weren't invested, they wouldn't ask questions, or they wouldn't feel some type of way. And two, it tells me that maybe they're seeing something from their perspective and their point of view that's speaking to them, their very being. And I want to know what that is, why they're seeing it, so that we're on two different pages. We can find, as you mentioned, the right page. But I also want to say there's not only the right page, or, the right exercise, but more so thinking of it, maybe this is the right approach right now to try. And that approach can change. Our approaches change based on an athlete, whether they're going through their off-season training, going into preseason, what they're doing in season, how they're progressing towards the end of that season when it's playoffs, how they come out of that and then repeat, right? That also might change based on very specific goals. So it's more so being able to have an open dialogue of communication where this is, as from the coaching perspective, this is what we see, this is what our reasoning is, this is why we're doing this. And then from the athlete perspective, being like, okay, now I understand why you're saying this. I could see what you see, but here's what we see. How can we find, there's the page you're on, here's the page we're on. Where is that same page? Because, and I really love what you said about the human experience, because that is something that I've been telling all of them. I was like, listen, you remember this at the end of the day. You're feeling frustrated. I understand that. And you're starting to view certain things in a negative light. And I get that. But let's look at the very most primitive understanding of what's going on. These individuals they're humans too. They're also experiencing pressure from other outside sources. And any human, we can't always expect the human experience of a leader to be that of a leader, because they're humans too. And they might be experiencing something where, and this has been articulated, where they feel lost and they're trying to figure it out. And instead of having everybody on the same lost page, remember the things that bring you all together, stick with those, and then from there, allow the path forward. I was like, in this situation, you're all out there on the ice together. You're the ones going into battle together, if you will. You all trust each other. You all know each other. You are all cultivating this level of connectedness and chemistry that it's not seen anywhere else on any other team. I'll tell you that right now. And that is something so powerful and so amazing. And you're all on the same page, but you're having a tough time buying into the page that's being presented. And that's okay. Sometimes you all can be the leader.
When it comes to the individual or the program, right? There's an idea of what we should be doing, but everybody's so different.
Yeah.
I had 3 calls this morning with my golfers, right? 2 world long drive guys and a guy that plays on the Corn Ferry Tour, and they're doing versions of the same program that have been changed from the start, right? Because I take what I get with them on a weekly basis and we try and change it. And one of them's having problem with rotation to the right. Now he's a left-handed swinger, so the follow through is a little bit restricted. Where another long drive guy, we haven't done any rotational stuff, and he has absolutely become more flexible and everything like that and not gotten any tighter through it. Everybody's just so different that if you go into this single frame of mind when it comes to coaching, like, it has to be evolved for the human that you're doing it with. And the bones can be the same, but everything else has to kind of be figured out over time. So if you're trying to figure out an injury, like, yeah, you can have that game plan going in, but like, what if that hurts?
Yeah.
You got to find an alternative, because you can't, there's going to be some pain working through some stuff, but like, it shouldn't be there. And if you as a coach can't pivot and problem solve from there to find an alternative that can make them better, but also doesn't give them the discouragement of feeling that injury on a daily basis,
Yeah.
like, it's dumb to approach it that way. And it makes them go into every exercise knowing that it's not doing what they want it to do, or they don't really believe that it's going to work. And believing is half of the battle when it comes to coming back from injuries. It's a
Yeah.
mindset thing just as much as it is a physicality thing.